Architect Olamilekan Adegbite, who without doubt, unquestionably is one of the great stars of this administration, and the passion with which he drives activities at the ministry is really something of commendation. I think it is appropriate to quickly also say a great thank you to Mrs. Janet Ademi Chief. You know, she's a woman all-rounder. She's really both the mother, the matron, the principal of women in mining in Nigeria. And we would like to really thank her for her incredible presence. I'd like to say a great thank you, of course, to our panelists, and in no order to say thank you to Hajia Shinkafi, Engineer Nkom, who I know, wears double caps here. First, of course, as the DG of the Mining Cadastral Office, but who has also been the current president of the Geosciences Society of Nigeria. So we really thank you and welcome you. I know you share this quick relationship, of course, with Professor Gwemika Okunlola, and would like to thank you, sir, for also your presence here today. Thank my sister and friend Olufunkeba Arwa, for being here. This is pretty much her show as much as possible. She, of course, being one of the leading gender voices in this country, and now who works as the gender lead at the West Africa offices of the Ford Foundation. Let me thank Dr. Linda Lawson, the reviewer for today, who is of course, the knowledge transfer manager at the University of Queensland out from Australia. So this is a star-studded team. We're grateful, not to forget Fatima Maikore, the interviewer who helped to put this whole extremely valuable package together. Thank you so very much. I'll make just one very quick remark here, and then it's not for me to say anything. This person is running the show. But one, so we have three entities. Premium Times on the one hand, which is, as we all know, is a storytelling platform, a newspaper, as it were, on the internet in this country. Without doubt, the second most read newspaper in this country, and probably most influential. But we also have the PTCIJ by the side, which is our own think tank, through which we use best practices in the global arena of what is happening in the media to help leverage on our own ecosystem in Nigeria. So we try to help empower our peers and how to do the work of journalism better. On the lower rep, the natural resource projects or program of the PTCIJ, which is responsible for what is also happening here today. So we work in 5 areas of marine resources and climate change, which helps to bundle together what we call the extractive economy. So the one word for us here is, why do we get engaged in the world of extractives? 2 reasons. One is that it is so central to the whole economic living of our country. We know how oil and gas has been. We see the promises of the mining sector. We understand that if you work with diligence in the marine sector, it could also open us far more revenue perhaps than oil and gas. We also know what's happening with our forestry resources. This extractive part of our economy, from the perspective of the media, can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. The story of Nigeria is evident to everybody to know what oil has been to us. It is the job of a good media organization to stay faithful to Article 22, Section 22 of our Constitution, which says it is the duty of the media to hold government accountable. So we come to this responsibility from the mandate of Article and Section 22 of this accountability challenge. And for us then is to see how the media can help to narrate the story of extractives in such a way that it benefits government, it benefits citizens, it benefits markets. This is how we come into this. And we're so awfully grateful to Hajia Fatima Mekori for bringing a star-studded team of women to speak about their placement, their location in the value chain of this very important part of our economy. We hope this is something that will be of great value. We like to stay engaged, not only with the women in mining section of that broad economy, but the broad mining sector. We thank you so much. And with this, I want to get my face out of the place and then say, but just so one last word, just to say that this monograph, of course, is also enabled by the kind support of the Australian High Commission, and we are awfully grateful and like to say thank you. Oluwatosin, please get me out of the picture at this point. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Loriyomi. You pretty much introduced folks, but I would do a much more expanded introduction when I call everyone, but which is good, which is why you're here. So now we move on to the goodwill messages, and who else? There's no other person to call first than Claire Ireland. She's a career officer with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and was most recently Councillor Economic and Development Corporation Australian Embassy, Hanoi. She holds a Master's of Science, Imperial College London, from the Imperial College London, and a Bachelor of Science honors from University of Salford. Over to you, ma'am, for your goodwill message.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, and also thank you very much for recognising our contribution. But first of all, can I just acknowledge the support you've had from the Honourable Minister for Mines and Steel Development. I think it's been tremendous in this whole process. But also I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Janet Adeyemi, President of the Women in Mining, who's joining us today and who's played such a critical role, as Dapo has said. And of course, acknowledge Dapo yourself as Executive Director for Premium Times. The work you do is so important, and we're honoured to be able to play a small part in that. Can I also just congratulate all the people involved in the production of this monograph? And there's been a lot of people involved. Yes, the money is a little part of that, but it's really the hard work and dedication of all the authors who have worked hard to bring the work together, the stories that are being shared, and the women to open up their own experiences, their struggles, their hope, their determination, but also their ideas about how we can take the sector forward. So I think I really congratulate everyone that's been involved in bringing this monograph together. Thirdly, I'd just like to acknowledge that obviously Australia, we do see ourselves as having a long history in the mining sector, and we're keen and happy to share our experience. It's been a long journey. We've learned a lot of lessons along the way. We've learned how to do things well and not so well. And if we can share that with others, then that's got to be a good thing. One of the lessons that we've really learned from our time is the importance of ensuring women participation in the mining sector. And so this monograph, I think, really helps to kind of set that kind of tone here in Nigeria. There's obviously a lot of challenges that remain in the sector, and getting women into the mining sector particularly. Often, the science technology and it's not an area that women go into, and it's perceived as sort of not a gender kind of, or not for women. But I think breaking down those barriers is part of the key that we need to kind of work on here and promoting that message. But I think the takeaway message for me when I look at the monograph, when I look at what Australian businesses are doing, is that in Australia, our businesses recognise that productivity, profit, and the potential of the mining sector is so significantly increased when women participate. And that's so much seen and regarded now that one of our biggest mining companies, BHP, it's committed to have gender parity in terms of its workforce by 2025. And so there's that recognition of the profit and benefit that having women participate in the sector can bring. So I think it's exciting times to see that Nigeria is starting on this journey, and it's talking about women participation so early on. And we will continue to work with you, share our experiences, and support really good initiatives like this. So let me say no more other than that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. We're grateful for the support of the High Commission, and we're always excited to learn from people who have done it before us, and so that we can also do better. There's no point in doing stuff if you cannot share information, and we're glad that you're able to share this information and you're willing to do this. And it's also exciting that you're a woman and you're taking charge of this for us. So yes, that's a win for us. So now I'd like to move to the Honorable Minister. He's been so fantastic. He's been so magnanimous, always responding to us whenever we reach out to him. Architect Olamilekan Adegbite. He has over 35 years experience in architecture and construction. He holds a Bachelor of Environmental He holds a Bachelor of Environmental Studies and a Master of Environmental Design from the School of Architecture, University of Lagos, and he's also earned a Master of Science in Construction Management from the same university. He served as a Commissioner of Works and Infrastructure in Ogun State from 2011 to 2019, and while serving as a commissioner, he played a key role in the construction of roads, flyover bridges, and other infrastructural development projects in the state. The professional competence that he exhibited during his period as a commissioner contributed immensely to the rising profile of the state, which we can testify to. And Ogun now is a huge investment hub in Nigeria, owing to the massive infrastructural project embarked upon across the nooks and crannies of the state. In addition to being a thoroughbred in the profession of construction and architecture, he is an excellent team player with a strong passion for conflict resolution. And I must say that Architect Adegbite is a strong advocate for women, and we're grateful for his support, and we're glad to have him join us today. So over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I couldn't believe you're talking about me. Well, it's nice to join you again, women in mining. And I would like to congratulate the organizers, especially Fatima and PTCIJ, that's Oluwatosin herself, for putting this book together. It's always good to have something to contribute to body of knowledge. As I have acknowledged in the little piece I wrote there, I found women, especially when I came into this office, women have contributed equally as well, if not better, than men, even in the theoretical aspects of mining. And of course, what little bit that is required is for the women to get involved in the practical aspect of mining, to have more women on the field, not just at the artisanal level, but then at the top echelon on the mining company. I've dealt with our junior mining company in Nigeria, that's Segilola Gold Resources. And you say it's always women are in the offices, but not in the mines. I think that's the next frontier for women to look at, to say that yes, we are as good as men when it comes to being on the field. The president of a Women for Mining Nigeria, Honorable Adeyemi, has been a very strong advocate. She's constantly pushing for women. We meet often, organizing, getting an office, and doing all that. A lot is done from our own resources. And of course, she seeks help occasionally when she's overwhelmed. This is also a welcome development. Just so much that women's voices will be heard in mining, and not just to be heard, like I said, in the theory aspect, but then for them to come on onto the field as well, and to prove that they're champions in the field, not just in the offices. I look forward to a lot of things that will be said today. I always pick up one or two things. Don't forget that mining is very new to me, and I'm still learning. I saw Professor Okunola here. I must acknowledge him. Professor Okunola was my, we don't call them senior, it was my TO in Government College Ibadan. And when I came into office, one of the very first people to avail me of his knowledge, text, and all that. So I must acknowledge him as well. And I'm still on that learning part and trying to know more about mining because that's what I'm saddled with as a portfolio. So thank you so much, everybody. And I look forward to learning more about mining today from our women. And of course, the gentleman there, Mr. Lapolo Yomi, I acknowledge you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. I don't know how you can say that you're still learning. If you're learning, what am I doing here? But we're all learning, and we're glad to learn from you the same way you're glad to learn from us. And again, it's a learning, we're glad. I must say, thank you especially for supporting the Women in Mining office. There was a recent launch of the office, and you were very instrumental to making that happen. We're grateful to you, and we're grateful that we can always knock on your doors whenever we have problems, and you always open those doors for us. Thank you, sir. And just to let you know that we'll be back. We're not done asking. I'm not done asking. I'm an Oliver Twist, and I'll come and ask you whenever I need anything from you. Thank you, sir. So now, yes. So now I'll move on to Dr. Akinlade, Oluwatoyin Akinlade. She is a recent permanent secretary at the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. She served several times at the ORL faculty board of both National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria and West Africa College of Surgery from 2004 to 2020. She'll just be providing brief remarks, and I don't know if she's here. So over to you, Dr. Akinlade.
I am here to represent the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Mines and Steel Development, and Mrs. Patricia Umar, Director Reform Coordination and Service Improvement. The Permanent Secretary presently is on a very important official assignment, and she has sent me to represent her in this event. She really was bothered that she could not make it, but she knew very well that I would be able to represent and make her views towards this association. I would want to say that the Permanent Secretary is very pleased and very excited about what is happening in this Association of Women in Mining. She shares in all your dreams, and she's willing to support you. And as if fate was on our side, the new program initiative, the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Development Initiative that was initiated in June this year, has really created abundant opportunity for women to key in. We all know how we women, we appreciate gold. And for this to come at a time like this means we are highly appreciated. If ever the women were not keen into mining, I think this is the right time. And the ministry has a lot of opportunities with all the facilities that are going to have in Kano and Lagos for women to key in. The Permanent Secretary said I should convey her feelings, her desires to share in your dream. And the fact that she's willing to support you in whatever measures she would be found, she would be requested to. Please, congratulations for the bold move that women are making. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And our regards to the to the permanent secretary. Again, we'll take her up on our offer to be of help to us. So when we need help and when we have challenges, we would reach out to the permanent secretary in addition to the Honorable Minister. I know that he's probably thinking I'm always mentioning his name, but yes, we will be glad to work with both of you to make things happen, to make magic. So now we'll move on to our keynote address, and this is by none other than Honorable Janet Adeyemi. Honorable Janet Adeyemi is a specialized and chartered water resources and environmental engineer. She is the founder and president Women in Mining in Nigeria. She is also a seasoned and astute public servant, a goal-oriented chief executive with a proven leadership and management career within the private sector, various developmental agencies, multilateral institutions, and global not-for-profit organizations. She's known for actively supporting legislative, political, public affairs, and humanitarian advocacies, along with promoting Nigeria's external debt relief package, gender equality, global best practices, and resolution of various statewide issues, as evidenced by numerous accolades throughout her career, as she is recognized as one of the first female legislators to represent the country nationally. She sponsored more than 15 bills that were passed in the National Assembly and initiated others. Some of these bills include the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Bill, the Small and Medium Scale Industry Development Bill, and the establishment of Bitumen Development Commission Bill. In her quest to attain some of these accolades, Engineer Adeyemi's academic qualifications include a Bachelor of Science in Geology at Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and a Master of Science degree in Water and Wastewater Engineering at Loughborough University of Technology, Leicester, UK. And to advance her knowledge in politics, she proceeded to acquire a diploma in legislative drafting at Tulane University, New Orleans, USA. And she was awarded a doctorate degree in political science by Columbus International University, UK. She is in the course of her career, handled notable projects. Some of these engineering projects handled by her include the land degradation mapping and assessment of the prevention and control of potential erosion hazards in Nigeria, action projects to combat effects of climate change-induced natural disaster in Nigeria, which is a World Bank project, and the procurement and installation of new hydrometeorological equipment in Katsina-Hala sub-basin and Ikogosi Warm Spring catchment area in Nigeria, amongst many other outstanding projects. She is married and she's blessed with children, and we are glad to have her here provide the keynote address. Over to you, Dr. or rather Honorable Adeyemi. Ma, you're mute, we can't hear you.
I was wondering actually if you were reading my citation. It seems a long time ago. But let me again use this opportunity to say hello to my Honorable Minister, Professor Okulola, Claire, and all others here. Let me stand anyway behind all existing protocols. It's nice to be here. I might be switching off my video as time goes on if I find out that it's fluctuating. Permit me to congratulate the initiators of this project and the researcher, Fatima Makore, for the in-depth study, which highlighted the challenges faced by women in the mining sector in Nigeria and the region, how far they have fared and the barriers to still contend with to break through. I will refer extensively to gender issues in other regions of the world, such as Canada, Australia, South Africa, Chile, Ghana, which are ahead of us in the mining sector since Nigeria abandoned its mining sector for total dependence on oil for a long time. It is obvious that the challenges are common to all. The level of severity is just what differs. Women all over the world, irrespective of race, color, or religion, have had to contend with society's stereotype. The girl child from a young age is conditioned to imbibe values that are tagged girlish, decent, normal by the society. She is expected to learn house chores and how to raise and nurture her family. And finally, when allowed to get some education, it will be in arts, humanities, and education. Any girl that ventures outside this is tagged by the society as wayward and often isolated. I remember studying geology about 40 years ago and the kind of questions we are subjected to. A lady is strange to be married off to a man where she's expected to take care of her husband very well and raise her family. It is believed that women are best placed. The monograph reviewed 8 personalities in the industry, and the interview brought out the various issues women face in the sector. I find the interview quite exciting and revealing. Gender gap is a reality in the mining world, which is mainly dominated by men. While there are women that are also been involved in mining, though their participation is limited to secondary roles. With most being in charge of a family, women mostly dedicate themselves to sustenance, slow mining, highly precarious working and economic situations. It is therefore commendable to find these women in the monograph determined to break the glass ceiling in the industry. Just like the minister rightly said, it's difficult for a woman who is left with kids to nurture to really progress in any industry. So we should give credence to women at all that they are emerging, because women are multitaskers. Various norms, cultures, and traditions held the girl child back and totally excluded them from political space and in turn decision-making processes. All races, cultures have a share of their holding back of their girl child. Women who dared to go into mining in the early 18th century in England, especially when you read the historical perspective to mining and women inclusion. Around Devon, we are frustrated out of the various mining areas they were because of the various on feminism spear campaign, which made headlines in their time. And so they were forced to abandon the mines because they were suddenly labeled as prostitutes, loose women, dirty women, everything. And so they had to leave the mines for them to become noble women, noble in quotes. Here in Nigeria, the women participation pre and during colonial times are undocumented officially. But thanks to Dr. Alheri, who through his research work on the Biron women in Jos gave an insight into their participation. If you check the official records, you find out that women were not mentioned. But this guy did a PhD research and she brought out information then from face-to-face discussion with people. He was able to bring out information on the actual role women played in the sector. Women had been held down by the destruction of their self-confidence, lack of education, the position of fear in their minds, and diverse cultural taboos also influenced women's exclusion from work in the mines and in the extraction in particular. For example, in Tolo, Mozambique, women were restricted from mining as they are believed to attract bad spirits. In Zambia, women were believed to cause the spirits of the gemstone to drive the stones deeper into the earth or disappear completely, a situation excavated during menses. In Suriname, women were prohibited from doing any activities in the ASM sector, even cooking when they are menstruating. In Otentil, women's presence in the mine makes minerals disappear. If a woman whistles near a mining area, then an accident will occur, and many more tales. Various legislations also kept women away from the mines. In our own Nigeria, Section 53 and 54 Nigeria Labor Law restricted women from going underground except during training. And then women were not even allowed to work at night. Women are seen as weak and not able to cope with the labor-intensive demands of mining, in addition to the notion that women are more likely to engage in sex with workers in their male-dominated environment. So how do you wake up and tell your husband that, oh, I'm going to mine and I'm the only woman among 6 or 10 men? You understand? So I think it's a challenge. The effects of protective laws and exclusion of women from underground tasks was to restrict women's work more to the household, which played a pivotal role in mining communities, but is insufficiently recognized. This process of delaborization of women's work was closely connected with the distinction between productive and unproductive labor. And actually, if women really are praised, like we always tease the men and say, you decided to keep us at night so that you can enjoy yourself when you come back. You decided to say, oh, we cannot work. You can imagine what our parents, our mothers went through, you understand? So some of these things are to actually protect the men's interest. I don't think it's our own interest, because why should you cry more than the bereaved? 8 women were interviewed, and based on the interview, the general consensus on the challenges faced can be categorized into lack of access to funds to complement their capital. This is not necessarily isolated to women, but it's more pronounced amongst women. Because women, as I sit, and I'm sure my husband is hearing me right now, as I sit, I don't have any assets to my name. You understand? Because everything is Mr. and Mrs. And in those days, it is even Mr. alone. So now we are lucky we've graduated to Mr. and Mrs. Can Mrs. just take a property and say, and take a document and say, I'm going to use in a sector the man doesn't really understand? You understand? So you have a lot of questions, and you are subjected to questions at home, even before the business questions. So men they probably might not take such risk with you. A woman needs a good family support system to be very effective in the sector because of the long days of being out in the mines. And if you read all through their stories, you find that it's common, especially I read Nere's support system. Each one of them has something to say about family. Resilience is a virtue here, knowing that bureaucratic hurdles to cross are multi-dimensions to mining, such as communities, staffers, and government. Oh, bureaucracy in Nigeria. We thank God for Architect Lekon. God bless you, sir. And I'm blowing the kiss to you again, sir. Thank you for making life simple for women. Oh no, sir, thank you for doing that. And people know me. Professor Gbenga Okunlola, our daddy in the sector, we just want to say thank you. Bureaucracy can be very, very frustrating. Nere was almost giving up. You understand? She was tired. So we thank God that resiliency, you have to be very resilient, you understand, to go through. The coping mechanism is required, as seen from the pictures. You leave your comfort, women, our makeups, look at us, we're looking so beautiful. But when you see us in the jungle, in fact, the moment you come back and see an ugly face, we tell one another, you've gone to sight, Abby. You understand? So you need that resiliency and coping mechanism. Mentoring is critical to success in our various stories. If you look at all of them, some have family members as mentors. Adia Hawa was talking about her grandparents who mentored her. Zainab Ko was talking about one Alaji Kalumbu, who I know so well too. And Nere was talking about an unmentioned mentor. To be successful in the sector requires hard work, commitment, and consistency. You must give it your all. Hadia Hawa, according to her, said she lived in a remote village of Benue State between January and September. That's completely away from city. Then you must be very humble and friendly. That's why the father will talk about gender inclusion, gender diversity, gender this. Our culture still recognizes men as the head, and biblically is still the head. So you must be very submissive, even while pursuing what you are pursuing, you must be respectful about it. Then I said basic education is essential, because these days, even what we are doing today, if you are not educated, you are intimidated by the use of communication gadgets, you understand? So I think education, I'm not talking about university and having all the degrees, but basic education, you must keep on training and retraining yourself in this sector. Mining as it stands is still male dominated. So we have to make sure we do all it takes. I said the findings of the research clearly highlights a number of key gender-related challenges that women face in the sector. This includes critical inaccessibility of capital and finance. Even till now, Neri and Co are still struggling, you understand, to get the proper financing, because the banks are not so supportive of the sector of supporting mining. Not to talk of when you are a woman, because some of the assets you even use as collateral. I wonder where a woman will really get it. You have to be very lucky to have something to put on the table. The lack of appropriate machinery and technology, we still know our mining destination, you know, we are still grappling with that just like any other woman. Lack of access to information on availability of mining claims, because they're not professionals. You understand? Because the place of geologists, you must be able to, you know, and that is why women in mining, for instance, we have the pool of knowledge. You understand? You must be able to mingle and to make sure you have access to the needed information you need, and then NGSA and the ministry, all those places are places you just have to be to get the appropriate information. Lack of technical know-how of the sector due to unavailability of capacity building opportunities. So continuous exposure to learning online as we speak. There's a session going on that's governance and mining. You understand? You just have to subject yourself to continuous learning. Lack of information on the market dynamics, including tax incentives. We have on Hajiawa, silent but rich, and they are very comfortable in mining in Nasarawa State, not the popular Hawa. She's not educated, she doesn't speak English, but get to her, you see all the gemstones in this world, and she takes her gemstones to Germany to sell. So you wonder, how does she do it? You understand? So initially, I'm sure she must have been exploited over and over before she found somebody who put her through, because the market is always changing and you have to understand the market. Unpaid care work in the home that takes up time is an issue a woman must look into, because you don't want to be successful and raise vagabonds. So there must be a way, you understand? That's why women should be smart. Women should be a multitasker. You don't waste your time gossiping, doing all manner of unnecessary things, because you don't even have time on your hand. You want to take care of your husband, you want to raise your children properly. You don't want to be successful and then have all the wealth and then you have nobody to transfer the money to. Then, and then the prevailing patriarchal ideologies that mining is a man's job should be trashed. I don't want to talk too much about that because I get emotional about it, but I'm sure that civilized men, competent men, comfortable men, exposed men don't get threatened about any woman around them. Then some of the key recommendations, I'm rounding up, is that there's a need for the provision of financing from both the public and private sector, provision of appropriate technology, institution of a clear information dissemination framework is very important to reach down to the grassroots. And that is what we try to do, in the sense that there's no how a government can have the capacity. You have to look at it. There's nothing new to invent, and I'm happy the minister is listening. There's nothing new to invent. In other climes of the world, you look at civilized, how successful they are, then you copy. That's why that word copy must have been established. You copy their models, and their models is that they work with NGOs like ours, you understand, who help to do things pro bono and get to the grassroots. The need for training and capacity building initiatives, continuous training and exposure. Nobody is an island and nobody's Mr. Know Everything. You must continually learn from people. More lucrative jobs in extraction are often perceived as masculine roles, requiring strength that women simply do not possess the ability to do. But we now find out that it's a lie. Women carry heavy objects, women operate things, and then thank God for technology. Technology, you know, most places now, you know, the robotic technology is on, and you find out that most mines now are automated. I always refer to the simple mining. When I got there, you know, I was amazed. And when I went to Australia, you understand, and I said, is this a mine? Is this how comfortable it is? Where it's like you are sitting in a comfortable sitting room. So I think that all these things are very, very important to do. And we've seen examples here in Africa. Go to Rwanda, you understand the 3C mines along the Great Lake regions. You see amazing work being done by women all over. I've gone to quite a number of mining destinations in Africa especially, and I'm always amazed at what I see women do. We found an all-women iron ore mining group in South Africa. We found Zimbabwe now came up with their own team. We found now in Philippines, you understand, all mining women in Philippines, where they said the women cannot even go into the mines. Now they are mining. So to me, I believe that there's no end to all these things. And so in conclusion, the monograph on women in the mining sector was good, and this has laid a solid foundation for male gender-based research studies to be undertaken to give the needed visibility to women in the sector. We cannot but thank Australian High Commission for their continuous support to promote women involvement and deepening women's presence in the mining sector. Women in Mining Association is committed to gender issues in the sector and will ensure the sustainability of continuous advocacy and sensitization to women, and we keep on creating pipelines to ensure that the younger generation women are coming on board. Gender inequalities are reinforced or challenged by the ways in which legal, social, and cultural rights, norms, and practices differently affect the capacity of women, girls, men, boys, and use and benefit from a resource. An individual becomes more or less advantaged by their freedom and ability to trade up, improve socioeconomic and health status. Those in position of relative privilege are better equipped to draw up a broad range of resources, from minerals water and land to government services, road and radios to labor, skills and social networks to money and savings. In order to further leverage their status, strengthen their influence and respond to hardship, women's economic empowerment, bargaining power, and relative status is dependent on money, mineral rights, lucrative work, skills, tools, equipment, justice systems. Money injustice, that is cheating, scams, non-repayment of debts that further impede women's abilities to benefit from the fruits of their labor must be dealt with. The results of this research should be used to influence government policy, planning, and actions to address the challenges women in artisanal and small-scale miners face. This will also help to position women miners to better contribute to a sector that is critical for Africa's transformation and development. The financial audit of a mining company should indicate percentage spent in the host community yearly. The capacity of the host communities should be sufficiently built to be able to engage government, private companies, and civil society. And we must commend PTCIJ for what they are doing currently. There should be support from government and donor agencies to support women in mining and other CBOs. It is a must to embark on a sex disaggregated data for easy monitoring and evaluation, and it is important to undertake biometric capture of those migrants or mine workers for record keeping, because these are threats to women on the sites. Incorporation of marginalized populations in national vision plans and MTBs must be taken care of. So once again, I completed my, once again, we want to congratulate Fatima Makori for a research thoroughly done, which brought out the issues in the sector. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Adeyemi. You couldn't have said it any better. It feels like we should just end this because you've just captured most of the issues and you've spoken to them, you identified the issue and you preferred solution. I'm sure that the attendees would be gracious, or rather would want to read your speech. So, which I know you always do, you'd share with me and I'll share to other panelists, other participants, so they can just read and digest and just have for their records. Ma'am, we're very grateful for your support. We're thankful for the leadership. I'm sure that almost all women in mining in Nigeria cannot speak to mining without your support. You're probably mentioned everywhere. And we're glad again that every time we speak to you, we call you, you're always available. For me, it was very interesting to even hear tales, myths around women in mining, and I'm wondering where they came across from. But well, with people like you and all of us on this panel, we're sure that we can break these taboos and strive for better women inclusion in mining all over the world and indeed Nigeria. Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you.
And so now I'll move to our interviewee. She'll be introducing the monograph. Her name is Fatima Makori. And she was appointed as a geologist in the Ministry of Mines and Steel in 2012 and has worked in the artisanal and small-scale mining department in the ministry, where her schedules included carrying out baseline studies on mining issues. Some of the issues pertain to the use of mercury in mining, the environment, child labor and gender, and intervention activities to stop the further occurrence of lead poisoning in parts of northwestern Nigeria. Also, the provision of extension services to mining cooperatives on mine closure, environment, safety, and health. She was elected as the Financial Secretary of the Australia Alumni Association of Nigeria and the Treasurer of the Association of Mine Closure Ambassadors. Fatima is also a member of the Women in Leadership and Women in Mining in Nigeria. She holds a bachelor's degree in geology from the University of Maiduguri, a certificate in executive course in oil, gas, and mining governance from the Blavtic School of Government, Oxford University, United Kingdom, and she has a postgraduate diploma in applied geosciences at the Laser Petroleum and Geosciences Center, Port Harcourt, and a postgraduate diploma in environmental resource management from Nassau State University, amongst other certificates. She has contributed several articles to the development of the extractive sectors for Nigeria's online newspaper, Premium Times. Over to you, Fatima Makori, to introduce the monograph.
Thank you, Thorsten. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. You're all welcome to the Women in Mining Monograph launch. I wish to acknowledge the Honorable Minister for his support and the Australian High Commission and High Commissioner, Ms. Claire Ireland. And I wish to stand on the already established existing protocol, right? So this monograph is the outcome of interviews and conversations held between August 2019 and March 2020. As can be seen from the profile of contributors, 4 groups of stakeholders were involved. They include policymakers, managers and workers, researchers, and marketers in the mine sector. While each contributor has given her perspective on the state of affairs in the sector, including those who have given an optimistic picture of what the future may hold, the common view is that the role and status of women within the sector range between disappointing and precarious. This is as such in general terms as in each of the 4 specific areas from which the contributors to the monograph have been drawn. My personal observation is thus that the issue of women's participation in the mining sector goes beyond the absence of opportunities and touches significantly on the organization of our society and the interpretation of what common good means. If we pause a little and look beyond the formal structure, we will find that there is more to worry about than the absence of poor representation of women at those areas of the mining sector that are reported in these documents. As we grow in baby steps, I think the current administration at the ministry has shown by transparent evidence that it supports the aspirations of women in the sector. And I want to add my voice in thanking the Honorable Minister, Architect Olamilekan Adegbite, for his support for the office gifts to the Women in Mining in Nigeria Association and for his presence here today. It is certainly empowering also to know that we have a female permanent secretary in the Ministry of Mines and Steel, in person of Dr. Oluwatoyin Akinlade, not because we seek crony attention, but because where women lead, they bring substance and organization. Providing support for women to level up in the sector will require a mix of policies that will have to be deliberate, concrete, and purposeful. I believe it will also need to cut across the value chain of the industry, from credit support, trading incentives, tax incentives, license incentives, technology, and associational support like women cooperatives, for instance. This last point needs a little elaboration because, as many studies have shown, women are major players in the artisanal mining subsector. Deepening the ministry's ongoing reforms in this subsector will surely help cushion the place of women through promoting common goods and alleviating poverty, especially amongst rural women. I thank you once more for your presence all, and I wish you all a pleasant week ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Thank you. Thank you. So now, without further ado, I'd like to present Dr. Linda Lawson, who would review and present the monograph. Dr. Linda is the Training and Knowledge Transfer Manager at the Center for Social Responsibility in Mining in the Sustainable Minerals Institute, and has worked in the corporate training space both in Australia and overseas for many years. She is responsible for all aspects of the center's training offerings, including recent online programming. She has also designed and led the center's local, she's also designed and led CSRM's local economic and social development training programs in Africa and Australia. She's committed to ensuring that these types of developments include the voices of women and youths. She has extensive experience in Africa, having led training programs in 13 different countries. Her special interest is in Madagascar, where her work has focused on remote and vulnerable populations, particularly female minors. She has designed materials and led field trainings for these women, funded by Tiffany & Co Foundation, DFTA, and GIZ. She's particularly interested in gendered impacts of large and small scale mining. Her PhD thesis examined the opportunities and challenges for women's empowerment in the gemstone value chain in Madagascar and Thailand. Madam Dr. Lawson, over to you.
Thank you so much, Oluwatosin, and honorable guests and speakers. Thank you very much for having me. It is evening already in Australia, but I'm just enjoying your fresh morning energy over there. Premium Times, congratulations. You are really, journalism is an absolutely vital part of civil society in regards to mining, and I really celebrate the work you're doing, and Oluwatosin, you're doing a fabulous job bringing everyone together today. It's beautiful. And Fatima Makore, who's the editor of this book, you're two inspirational young women. It's wonderful to hear from you. Honorable Janet Adeyemi, I really think I could stop now. You've said everything, but it's really exciting to get to know you a little bit more, and I'm in awe of some of the things you've done. I just can't wait to chat more. I'd like to frame my review tonight with a question, which guided my own PhD. I finished my PhD in July, and I was guided right the way through by a British academic feminist, and her question was very simple but very useful. The question is, what makes change happen for the better in women's lives? Simple question, but it's interesting, and we'll look at the review in that way. Just a little bit about Fatima. I've known Fatima for a number of years now. She was my student on the Australian Awards course in Brisbane and Madagascar, and I would like to commend her efforts in editing this. As you can see from her impressive biography, she is a STEM professional, but she's worked hard on this literary event, and she's gone beyond her original training with grace and passion. So in this book, we have the stories of 8 leading women, and I love stories because they inspire us to do better and what makes change happen for good in women's lives. Each story is about commitment, sacrifice, and vision, and it's really inspiring. I added a chapter, a postscript, just a few things to sharpen it, which you can read, but really they're very inspiring. First, I'd like to mention, Oluwatosin, your chapter, which is Women and the Changing Face of Mining. And I'd like to read this quote here. You write, "The story of the Nigerian extractive sector is also the narrative of the actors whose toils and efforts have given it shape, alongside the deep silences attendant upon some of the key roles involved, importantly, those of women. These have been barely acknowledged toilers and victims of the sector's worst manifestations, whether in terms of income, environmental burdens, and who equally hold out the possibility of a new dawn for the mining industry in Nigeria." Oluwatosin, you said it so well there, you know, that's my thesis really, and it's exactly right. Those deep silences, those people at the margins, those who are not heard, so they're coming to the fore, and it's really exciting to hear that. So thank you for that. Just looking briefly, I don't know if you've had a chance to read the book, but let me read some of the titles so you can get a flavor. One title, Changing the Negative Impact of the Mining Sector, Changing. The Challenge of Funding in a Capital-Intensive Sector. We've heard quite a bit about that already. The Necessity of Price Control in the solid mineral sector. Rallying Other Women for Economic Empowerment. On a very positive note, we have a story interview by Bose Owolabi, paving the road to success with gold. This needs a little preface because Bose runs Dukia Gold and Precious Metals Refining Company, Dukia Gold. This is one of just 2 licensed precious metal refiners in Nigeria, and it's one of the very few in Africa. Well done, I really love it. I've been to Ghana quite often and quite recently, and they're still struggling with this idea of refining. So well done. Another title, Levering Mining and its Value Chain. That's a great one. I particularly enjoyed the chapter by Georgette Sakya-Ado, the current president of the Association of Women in Mining in Africa, a Ghanaian woman, and her title of her piece is Creating a Space of Their Own for Women in Mining, interviews with her. Finally, ensuring women's representation in the mining sector, decision-making. This fabulous interview with the Honourable Janet Adeyemi and the current president we've already met tonight. As a parliamentarian, she succeeded in the insertion of gender clauses into some of the bills, for example, relating to federal roads and bitumen. This, for me, is very, very exciting. I would love to know more about this. And along with mining of gold and gemstones, which of course are very attractive, I encourage you to think about this area of development minerals and providing the development minerals to the infrastructure sector. All of these merit careful reading, but let's look just at the contributions of some of them. First of all, let's thematically look at some of the challenges that women face. And Neri Teriba has her section called Changing the Negative Image of the Mining Sector. And it reminds us that women's empowerment, we use this term very often, but women's empowerment has both personal, economic aspects. Neri Tereba writes about this in her challenging experience of entry into the gold mining sector. And I think people have already spoken. I think, Fatima, you mentioned this as well. And Neri writes, to be fair, I can't say the challenges I'm having now is about the industry, but I can say it is about Nigeria and human nature. There's distrust and fear of innovation and pioneering efforts. So here she goes to the heart of some of these structural issues and deep-held institutional systems that disadvantage many people, but women in particular. Funmilola, excuse me, my pronunciation, but I'm trying. Funmilola called the challenge of funding in a capital-intensive sector. She highlights this area, and she's moved from gems, which is my area of research, to a wide range of minerals. And she again highlights the structural and institutional barriers women face in access to finance. She writes, in the past, it was very tough, especially for women, to access funds. And Janet, Honourable Janet mentioned this very, very nicely. I used money from my own import business because when I started, banks were not ready to give loans to miners just because they didn't understand mining. So lots of work to do there. And I love the emphasis on women's stories. I'm sure Africa par excellence is a storytelling culture. And when you tell stories, people listen. You know that in the West, they have storytelling courses for businessmen. We women, we just do it naturally. But in the chapter by Hajia Aluya, she reminds us that mining is often inherited in Africa. And she writes, I grew up seeing my grandparents in mining activities, the mining of tin and columbite. And after my marriage, I came back home with an interest in mining. And Hajia reminds us of another vital necessity in Africa, value addition. Those students that have come on my training courses with me over the past 7 and 8 years, they used to nickname me value addition and knowledge transfer whenever they saw me. The most important thing is for you to know how to prepare these minerals very well, create value addition so that whichever office you take the minerals to, you will make profit, even if not as expected. I call on serious miners to take time and learn how to prepare minerals very well before thinking of taking them out of the country. I've done a lot of work in Thailand where they have a very, very established, and I think some of you have too, very established gemstone beneficiation centers, but that is the fruit of tens and tens of years of work in the sector. So we may have the equipment, but we need to put the effort into the long-term apprenticeship. In the beautiful interview with Janet Ahayaba, we have a chapter on rallying other women for economic empowerment. And this is a fabulous story of a successful women's cooperative in Kogi State. Now, I've been very impressed. I've heard about this for quite a while, and I was very glad to read it here. She writes, we have over 300 women, and we've formed more than 3 cooperatives. Women are the major feldspar miners. So there we go. They're not sitting in offices, they're the feldspar miners. They go out every morning to mine, they load these onto as many trucks as are available. You know, these women could teach the large-scale mining women a thing or two. Yes, I mentioned earlier about Bose Owolabi's fascinating chapter on Dukia Gold, but most important of all, I find, is her focus on host communities. She writes, host communities are our priority. We will deliver jobs, inclusion, community development projects, fair trade in real time, and other initiatives via direct collaboration with host communities. So this is fabulous. You know, Bose, I think that with your, you know, very, very successful business with gold, you have not forgotten your community. And as women, I think we are particularly sensitive to communities, and we should never lose sight of that. Josephine Abureme, her chapter, Leveraging Mining and its Value Chain, that comes very close to my heart because this one has a focus on training. The idea is to cut the stone, she writes, and then that already changes the value. You know, if you cut a gemstone from rough into a cabochon, I'm wearing a cabochon stone ring there, and then into a facet, the value of that stone doubles and trebles. But as I mentioned earlier, women need to work hard to get these skills. In Bangkok, women are some of the master cutters. They're the best cutters of gemstone, but this is years of work. So Nigeria, keep going. Let me finish by reminding you of the chapter by the current president of Women in Mining Africa, which is, you know, it takes in the whole of Africa, Georgette Sakya Ado, who I know well. I met her in Ghana. I love this title, Creating a Space of Their Own for Women in Mining. Just let that resonate a little while, creating a space. But it's not easy, as everyone has said tonight. She talks about obstacles and the many things that Janet, Honourable Janet mentioned earlier, and Fatima also, socio-cultural perceptions, myths, attitudes that women do not belong in the sector is still a stumbling block. And that resonates with my experience both in ASM and LSM, artisanal small-scale mining and large-scale mining. In conclusion, I want to encourage you to set your aspirations high, as everyone in this monograph has done. We were very interested to hear from the Honourable High Commissioner that the HP vision is for there to be gender balance by 2025 for its 80,000 employees. But I would honestly say they're going to have quite a hard time to get there. And I would agree with the Minister that we need to encourage women into operational roles, not just traditional roles in offices and HR. And why do I say that? Let me ask you, why do I say that women should be in operational roles? It's there, those roles in operations that offer women the way to senior roles, real personal and economic empowerment, because a mine is a technical operation. It is a planning operation. Your technical operational skills will open the doors to senior management. But I would add, and I don't think we've talked quite enough about this yet, it's also possible for women to hold, it's also necessary to make it possible for women to hold these jobs in a safe and harassment-free environment. Women are still experiencing too much difficulty you know, very simple things like toilets for women, PPE for women that actually fits women, they feel comfortable in. These are just tiny examples. There are much more serious ones. I remember a colleague of mine in Australia who was a fabulous mining engineer, started off on her first night out driving a dump truck. That was what she started out with. And she was pushed along the track by a harassing male driver. These things are out there, women. We need to address this culture. But most important, and I've said this before, remember your communities. I urge you to read the Responsible Mining Foundation's work, organization based in Switzerland, are doing a fabulous job looking across 38 large-scale mines, looking at issues related to gender, climate change, cultural heritage. They spend 2 months with each company. They are doing a fabulous job. They identified issues for women in mining related to harassment, but they also said that mining companies were failing women in communities. If you are involved in mining operations, whether they're large or small, argue to get a good gender impact assessment included in your SIA. And Honourable Janet mentioned this, we need data. This is what people will listen to. I've been into villages in Madagascar and talked to the mayor. I said, I see you have a population of 890 people there. How many of these are women? Oh, we don't know, we're not sure. So this really has to stop. We need the information to inform our decision making. As we speak, with COVID and the impacts of COVID, women and youth are particularly impacted. Poverty, global poverty is on the rise for the first time since 1998. Women are at the front line of exposure to COVID and its impacts. And mining and infrastructure and development minerals will be vital in the recovery. Thank you so much for having me, and let's talk again soon. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Lawson. Thank you for that review. One thing that I took away was that we should remember our communities. Miners, we need to remember our communities. There's also a need for women to have jobs in a safe and harassment-free environment. And what it might seem like a given or very minute, but this also resonated. Women need equipment that fits, equipment that is comfortable for them to work with. It might seem like a given, just wear pants or wear this outfit. But no, if it's not comfortable, you really don't want to do the work. You're not driven to do it. So thank you so much. I'm sure that the women here are listening, and we're going to push for all of these in Nigeria and indeed the world. Thank you, Dr. Lawson. So now we'd like to move to our panel. And forgive me if I didn't say this earlier. So our panel will be speaking to a particular theme, and that theme is resource extraction, women, and sustainable development in Nigeria. So I'd like to first start with Professor Okunola. Professor Okunola holds a PhD degree in economic geology from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, where he is currently a full professor and head of Department of Geology. He has 38 years experience, which straddles the public service industry and academia. He's also served as a special advisor, mineral assessments, to the Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey from 2006 to 2013. And he is currently the chairman of the Mining Roadmap Implementation Strategy Team for Nigeria's mining sector. He holds a fellowship of the Geological Society of London, African Scientific Institution, the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, the Nigerian Society of Mining Engineers, Nigerian Association of Engineering Geologists and the Environment, and loads more. Is happily married with kids. Professor Okunola, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I first of all want to appreciate the organizers of this meeting and for their kind invitation. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister of Mines and Steel Development. Currently, he's our boss. So even if he says I'm a senior, he's my boss any day. And I just want to congratulate him because and I'm saying it publicly, he's doing very well. And we're very proud of him. I want to say this. The stakeholders, the entire profession is happy with him. And we hope it continues. So we'll be there to support him. I also want to appreciate the Premium Times. I think several times I've had interactions with them. Be that as it may, Ms. Janet Adeyemi is also here. She's so energetic and is doing so well for women in Nigeria, especially in mining. So I also want to appreciate her and every other person here, the Ambassador of Australia, Claire. I appreciate you. Women in mining, they're so important. Just like you have women being important in every profession. Hitherto, and if we look at it historically, I think mining either has not been fair to women, or maybe, and pardon me for this, women had not been fair to mining. Why? Because maybe women had not allowed us in the mining industry to enjoy all the privileges, all the competencies, all the potentials that they have. And maybe also those of us who have been in mining that are men had not also allowed the women to really fulfill their potentials. Personally, I've been an advocate of women participating in mining. And it's a bit personal, and please allow me to share this personally. I have 3 boys and a girl. And my second son is somebody I even wanted to read geology because he looks very strong. And I think, wow, this boy, you will just, you'll be a very good geologist. And I did all I could to see that he reads geology. But you know, women are very powerful in the house. I don't know how my wife and the boy connived, and the next thing I knew, the boy was already reading engineering, and he ended up doing engineering. But my daughter, and the only daughter I have, that's my last child, on her own said, I'm going to read geology. I want to say right inside me, and I apologize if this sounds not right. Look, I hope this girl will be able to survive the rigors of what we are going to face in the field. Subtle, you know, the kind of parental care born out of ignorance was, look, I would have loved you to do any of the softer, you know, sciences and all, but she was insistent. And today she's a geologist, and even more rugged, so to say, than me. So I have a flair for women in geosciences, in mining, and allowing us. I'm an advocate in allowing us to allow them to fulfill all their potentials in mining. Be that as it may, it's not just going to be served a la carte. And that is what I say at every forum where I had to discuss the issue of women in mining. If we look at statistics, and that's why I started from either the women had not been fair to us or we had not been fair to women. Statistically, I look at the last audit, the audit report of NEITI, which somehow I was involved in when I was on the board of NEITI as the chairman of the technical committee, looking at these reports and had to make some inputs. If you look at the materiality of NEITI, that is starting from those companies or other individuals or entities that are contributing about 5 million naira annually, and you look at the contribution of women in that sector, materiality contribution, in which they began to look at all their audit paraphernalia, so to say, women recorded 0%. That's the reality. So it means, despite all the efforts, a lot still has to be done. Let me say this. Government is trying, and government will continue to try. But we'll continue to also say that as much as government is trying, as the administrator and as the regulator, there is a limit to which government can be involved in this mining scenario. And that is how it is all over the world. The private sector, the stakeholders, they have about 70% of the role more than what government will do. For example, government cannot shoulder the funding of the mining sector, no matter the level of interventions. And they are trying. I want to say it, and I can be quoted anywhere. This government has tried in trying to intervene in the mining sector. If we look at the funds that they have given to BOI, if you look at the intervention funds, if we look at the World Bank, the Mindiver and all that, those are interventions and they are important, but they cannot take it far. So no matter how much also the government encourages the women, and they are doing it, and they should still continue to do it, those of us who are the stakeholders have a lot to do to take it on from there so that we can be more successful and can achieve what we want to achieve. We want to move from a GDP contribution of about 0.1 or whatever we are now to about 0.5. We've just concluded, and Mrs. Adeyemi was very prominent in this, and we also want to thank the Honorable Minister for his contributions and all its efforts in seeing it on. That's the medium-term national development plan for Nigeria, and we're looking at the solid minerals, the mines, and the steel sector. And we want to see how it can move from 0 to about 0.5 or thereabout or higher by 2025. That's the GDP contribution. And we discovered that one major area that we need to look at is the women factor. It's very crucial. By the time we did all the diagnostic reports and we began to do the analysis, we discovered that that is one area that is missing and that needs to be plugged. And it was one of the crux of our planning for the 2021 to 2025 medium-term national development plan for the sector. And that had been incorporated. I am an addict of what we call a map, a road map. Maybe as a geologist, we talk about maps. But we must have the women and all of us who are involved in the narrative of getting women to be involved fully in this sector must really now begin to look at a specific roadmap. Where do we want women in mining and their contributions to be in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Let me look at the theory, and I start from what the Honorable Minister had said clearly. Said, well, the theory aspect and the practical aspect, and it's very, very crucial and very fundamental. If we look at the theory aspect, the training, how many women are involved in even training the geoscientists now? In the academia, for example, how many women do we have teaching in the universities? I know there is a research going on, there is a survey going on, I'm certainly involved in that also. How many professors of geosciences, of earth sciences, of mining engineering, of mineral process engineering do we have now in Nigeria? How many women geoscientists, earth scientists, mining engineers are we training now for the future? Where do we want to be? And I think we need to also begin to look at this aspect because it's very fundamental. We want to move. I'm also an advocate of gradual movement from the concept of artisanal mining to a much more organized mining. Artisanal mining is good. Yes, it takes care of the immediate poverty and all that, but it's not the end in itself. It has to be a kind of an intermediary thing. No nation can develop its GDP conclusively on artisanal mining. And that involves a lot of training to be able to evolve from that level to what we call the medium scale or large scale that can even affect the society, that can affect the community, that can also affect our total raw materials input into the industry. So how do we get there? How do we now begin to look at either extension? How do we begin to look at skills development? How do we begin to look at R&D? How do we begin to look at training? I just look at that concept. So where do we want the women to be? They need to be trained. I don't want to start seeing women in the sun breaking stones and say, oh, that's artisanal mining. I have a soft spot personally for women. I get so touched when I see them strapped with their babies at the back, and they're the ones that are breaking the stones and all that. And all. We must move away from that. To move away from that, we must organize them. To move away from that, we must train them. I'm not necessarily talking about university certificates or diplomas now, skills. So where do we want to go from there? How do we want to move along? How do we want to empower the women? That is just one area. We must have a roadmap. And I want to appeal to all the thinkers in this concept, in this narrative, to begin to look at how do we move from where we are? How do we plan? What are the things we need to do? What is the scenario planning we want to involve? How do we get away from 1% to 10% to 15%? So it's very important. We need to begin to look at that. How many years will it take us? Good. Then we now look at other concepts, because mining itself is not in silos. No, it's so
sorry to cut you. You have less than 2 minutes. Sorry,
and I'll round up in 2 minutes. You see, mining is not in silos. From exploration to mining itself, to finance, to management, to even infrastructure development, to the ancillaries, to processing. We must now begin to look at how many women do we now have in each of these areas? How do we want to get many more women involved? How do we get there? Those are the questions I am posing now that I think we need to think clearly about. Women are very crucial. Whatever a man can do in the mining industry, a woman can do. I have data about women that are completely involved in exploration, that even form the main exploration team of a company. It's happening. There are women who are now involved in processing, but it's important that we get them properly organized, get them properly trained, and then plan scenarios. How many women do we want to be? What's the percentage ratio of men to women we want to see in this particular sector in the next 10 years? In processing, can they be exposed to processing? Can they now be exposed more to exploration? Can they now be exposed more even to management and finance? I said this thing one time and people said, no, Prof, don't talk about that. But from my little experience, I've discovered that even women are better managers when it comes into the mining industry, and I have my data. So how do we get them to move, get involved in exploration, get involved in management, and then also look at what I call the low-hanging fruits? It's very important. What are those low-hanging fruits, those low-hanging areas in the industry that we can quickly get our women to get involved, and they have a comparative advantage? Not necessarily saying they cannot be involved in anything. No, they have a choice. They have a choice. They have the potentials. But because we're looking at this involved with this immediately. So with that, I hope we can plan scenarios for women. We can see how they can even take over. We can see how they can be in the majority in the mining industry. They have the potential. They can do what we can do, but we have to plan for them. How do we get there? That's important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. Very insightful takeaways. private sector has more to do than the government. 2, we need a roadmap. 3, we need to plan scenarios for women, so that we need to plan scenarios for them. We also need to train women. It's not university or certificates, but we need to train them. We also need to identify, we need to understand that ASM is not the end. ASM cannot move the GDP of Nigeria. We have to move beyond ASM. These are many more you said, and we're grateful for your contributions. We'll be back to you. If anyone has questions, we'll direct them to you. And again, I keep saying it to everyone, I will come back to you when I have questions to ask, and I'm sure that you respond. You have testified that you have soft spot for women, so I'm going to come as a woman, and I'm going to harass you into answering some of my questions. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Yes. So now I'll move to Ms. Barua Olufunke Barua of the Ford Foundation. She is a gender and development practitioner with almost 2 decades of experience from government and civil society, focusing on public policy, gender advocacy, civil society strengthening, and governance. She has also led several social policy and reforms in Nigeria, serving at various times as Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund, which is a technical and financial resource for women in governance in Nigeria. And she was Program Officer at the defunct Petroleum Special Trust Fund and National Poverty Eradication Program. And she was Gender Advisor at the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on MDGs. Prior to joining Ford, she was a civil society and media specialist in the Peace and Democratic Governance Office of USAID Nigeria, where she designed and led multi-million-dollar civil society strengthening projects. As one of the 17 women changing the world identified by the Institute of Inclusive Security at its 2015 colloquium held at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Funke is a member of the Women Waging Peace Network, a leading woman and mentor. She holds a BSc Business Administration and an MBA in Management from the Universities of Abuja and Nigeria, with postgraduate certifications in Gender and Public Policy and Management from the Universities of East Anglia and York, UK, respectively. Ms. Barua, over to you, ma'am. Ma, we can't hear you. Okay, and 10 minutes. Good morning. I can't hear you. I don't know if others can. And I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my apologies. I was just saying good morning and thank you for having me.
I feel there's something wrong with either your headset or your microphone.
I think the headset, let her remove the headset or put it on.
No.
Use the phone, the
mic from your computer.
Use the mic from your computer.
That really doesn't work well.
Oh, sorry about that.
Let's try this. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So good morning and thank you for having me. Good morning. Nice to be here and speak about a topic that we hardly ever discuss, especially the role of women in sectors that are predominantly dominated by men. I want to thank the Honorable Minister and the other panelists here and Premium Times for inviting me. It's difficult to speak when people have established the facts. The monograph is a very, very interesting work in this area. But I just wanted to say a few things. I just have 10 minutes. And one of that is to say that women in mining. Why don't we have enough women in this sector? I feel that this sector has a lot to offer. You are still not hearing me. Maybe you should go to someone else and come back to me. I apologize. You're still not hearing me?
Yeah, it's in and out.
Now
so
we are
maybe...
hearing now. Now it's in and out. Now we are hearing.
Okay, so maybe what we do is while you resolve the technical challenge, I'll just move on to Engineer Simon Nkom, who will just speak to the issue. Engineer Nkom was appointed the Director General of the Nigerian Mining Cadastre, which is an agency under the Ministry of Mines and Steels Development. He holds a postgraduate diploma in mining engineering from FUTA, in addition to various other qualifications, which include an MBA and PGD in management from University of Maiduguri, a HND in mining engineering from Kaduna Polytechnic, and certificates in geodatabase, GIS, that's Geographical Information System, both from Houston, USA, spatial data handling from Netherlands, and public administration from Maiduguri, and mining and meteorology from Maintech, Japan. And he has also obtained a certificate in Japanese language. Wow. He's currently the 30th president of the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, and also member of the following professional bodies, amongst others. Is a fellow Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, fellow the Nigerian Society of Engineers, fellow Nigerian Society of Mining Engineers, and many more. He was awarded an honorable doctorate degree of science and fellow in sustainable environment development at St. Louis d'Afrique University, Porto Novo, Republic of Benin. He also received an award on the African Leaders Integrity Merit in Lomé, Togo. He has served in various committees, as well as attended courses and conferences within and outside Nigeria in mining and mineral sector development. He is married with children. Engineer Nkom, over to you, sir. And welcome. You have 10 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, the Honorable Minister, the High Commissioner. I think the High Commissioner Claire, I have always been seeing you on webinar. I hope to see you one of these days to be able to now have some discussions as to investment in the sector. Dr. Janet Ademi, I say hi to you. I really feel honored and privileged to be part of this webinar. And particularly the monograph is something that going through it, I went through it carefully. And when Linda Lawson was doing some overview on it, I was quite excited, and I appreciate you, Linda, for that wonderful overview of the book, and many more other persons. You were actually saying something about me, and I think you missed one thing. I also have a certificate in women in mining. At least after this webinar, I should be able to now have a certificate of women in mining, because I think we've had discussions elaborately with quite a number of you. And, the essence of the whole thing is to be able to now have a collaboration between Nigerian Mining Cadastre Office, between the Women in Mining, and equally the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. The essence of the whole thing is to be able to now actually recognize that women in mining are quite formidable. Your strides are quite intimidating. So sometimes when I get intimidated, I picked, even the monograph, when I picked it, I said, okay, to console myself, I say, looking at chapter 1, they said women and the changing face of mining in Nigeria and the region. I said, okay, how do I console myself? Let me console myself by saying, instead of O, let me put E for everything. It gave me strength to now say, women and the changing face of mining in Nigeria and the region. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because the men have no option to be able to now give the necessary support towards the strides at which and the milestones that you have achieved within a short time, which is both continentally, internationally, and let me say globally. And before I get sacked by my boss, who is the past president, who is the immediate past speaker, Professor Benga Lola, past president of the Nigerian Mining and Sciences. I say well done for that wonderful presentation. And I think, looking at it carefully and listening to him, he has virtually said all that is needed to be said. This is a forum whereby if we have the opportunity to be able to continue to talk and unrelentlessly on issues coming up. For Fatima Ikori, I really don't know how to describe you, but I want to say continue the good work. Congratulations to you. And please, next time, try to create a chapter for the men to make a comment. And in addition to that, maybe it would be good to be able to now indicate the aspect of governance. And at the same time, the legal and institutional aspect, because in governance, I know that there are quite a number of women in governance. We cannot only be looking at mining itself, the entire value chain. We need to be able to now look at the legal and institutional framework, because it starts from there. So we must be able to now dot the I's to move some of those aspects. At the end of the day, be able to now have legal document that will be able to now reposition the entire sector rather than thinking more the entire value chain, I mean, only an aspect of the value chain. Having said that, the mining cadastral, like many of you are already aware, we have zonal offices. And I can tell you without missing words, and I keep saying it, and I'll continue to say it. Blessed is Engineer Outcome among women. They have given me all the necessary support. That is why you find out that from one of the zones, I have a woman as the zonal cadastral officer, quite industrious. One of my very, very sensitive units, which tends to drive the mining cadastral, is headed by a woman, which is the research development sustainability, person of Hanatu Ahmed. So I can assure you that I want us, after this webinar, like I mentioned to Dr. Adeyemi, that there's a need for us to be able to now have that collaboration. Because that collaboration with the mining cadastral and NNGS webinar programs and activities, I think it will go a long way. Because we cannot in any way sit back and look at the sector and feel it's not our business. The Honorable Minister, the Minister of State, and our amiable Permanent Secretary has just come in. We have no option to be able to now give them all the necessary support. But
thank you.
I remember one of the webinars, the challenges that women have is not around them, it's not in the environment. But one of the major things is the women themselves, not believing in themselves, not believing that they are more capable. The men don't have two heads. They don't have anything structural, I mean, humanly different from others. And that is why you find a woman that is position or is involved in one thing or the other, you find out that she is very, very successful. So I want to challenge and encourage the women to believe in themselves and believe that they can do far, far, far much better. Other women have done it. Other women are doing it. then why can't you do it? So on that note, I don't intend to say much, but I want to continue to encourage us that it's not about gender, it's about making sure that we develop the sector. Then the mining cadastre and the NMGS, and all of us continue to support you, continue to be part of you, and ensure that at the end of the day, we will be able to now move this country, the world, to the level that is needed. On that note, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to say one or two things. I know that Mala has said much, but with the little I've said, thank you for the opportunity, and we have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Engineer Nkom. We're grateful for your support. You've just said it, women need to take the bulls by the horn. We need to be bold. We should not be afraid. And so, and you also spoke about collaborations. Collaborations, the ministry, the cadastral, everyone is willing to collaborate with women. So women just need to take the step, and they have the support of the ministry and the cadastral. Thank you, sir. So now I'll move to Hajia Shinkafi. Unfortunately, Ms. Fatima Shinkafi is unable to join us, but she's ably represented by Ms. Yemi Caxton. Ms. Yemi Caxton is a seasoned and certified project manager with over 18 years of experience, project management experience in the public and private sector. She has successfully led multi-million-dollar projects both in Nigeria and Canada. She's an alumni of University of Toronto, and she's a skilled management consultant who is highly efficient at working within challenging business markets and providing outstanding leadership performance in numerous organizations. Ms. Caxton has held various leadership positions, which include project manager overseeing various projects at Government of Ontario and Canadian financial institutions, manager at PricewaterhouseCoopers Nigeria, general manager at Pavilion Technology, one of Honeywell Group's subsidiaries, and chief operating officer at High Growth Capital and implementation strategist at Ministry of Health, Lagos State, overseeing the executive office and grant management unit of the Lagos State Ministry of Health. Ms. Caxton currently supports the SMDF as the PAGMI project implementation lead. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I stand on the existing protocol, but I must make special mention of our Honorable Minister, Architect Olamilekan Adegbite, for his continuous support for women in mining. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Just fine? Perfect, okay.
Yeah.
So globally, the crave for sustainable development and increasing women participation in governance has been relentless. This is premised on the belief that sustainable development is attainable where and when there is good governance and gender justice. Women are affected by mining as individuals, as workers, as a community, and as family members. To this end, most countries have become signatories to many international agreements, which are intended to boost the status of women and empower them in all spheres of life. This orchestration is premised on the need to develop human societies and the sustenance of such developments, as well as the general belief in the developmental potentials of women. One of the keys to progress and development of any nation is set with the position of women in that society. Thus, women represent potent agents for positive change, depending on their condition and the opportunity offered to them to actualize their potentials. The most important factors in mitigating gender inequality for sustainable development are access to education, access to financing, and skills development. In recent time, gender inequality can be directly linked with sustainable development. The three pillars of sustainable development are economic, environment, and social. These are also relevant to discussions of gender equality. It is important to note, economic objective cannot be achieved without putting in place strategies that are gender assertive. Now that COVID-19 restrictions are easing, Economic recovery is next, and the questions many ask are, what sectors are going to drive this economic recovery? What low-hanging fruits can provide the rapid growth that we need over the coming years? The Nigerian mining sector is one of these low-hanging fruits, we believe, and the ministry is determined to ensure that the sector plays its role in driving this recovery. Under the able leadership of the Honorable Minister, Architect Olamileko Adebite, the ministry has rolled out various initiatives to accelerate economic recovery and is developing a comprehensive, sustainable plan to change the face for the mining sector. This has demonstrated commitment towards human capital development at both the levels of the ministry and the ASM practitioners, and balancing gender inclusion in the mining sector. The ministry is also reviewing the existing legislation and governance structures to make it more structured and at par with industry global standards, ensuring adherence to the provisions of the Mining Act in the oversight functions of the ministry, as it would ensure strict compliance to environmental standards. All these initiatives will bring long-term benefits to Nigeria, improve confidence, and help attract local and international investments into the Nigerian mining sector. This will thus help the sector bounce back quicker post-COVID-19, and support the country's economic recovery. The Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Development Initiative, also known as PAGMI, is a program that was launched in 2019 under the Solid Minerals Development Fund to foster the integration of artisanal gold mining activities in the Nigeria's legal, economic, and institutional framework under a national gold purchase program for supply to the Central Bank of Nigeria, and this is to be used as a reserve instrument. PAGMI will result in increased revenue and the creation of 500 new mining and formalized jobs. And this is part of our commitment to increasing participation of women in the mining sector. Women across the country are guaranteed at least 60% employment in gold processing and buying centers. Women have a strategic role to play in value addition and wealth creation, and they will continually be trained in various aspects of the gold value chain to increase their skills and capacity. Studies have suggested that women help improve a country's environmental and social stewardship. For instance, a PwC report found that companies with 2 or more women on the board spent 5.59% of their profits on community engagement. This is 5 times more than those with an all-male board. According to a 2012 Credit Suisse Research Institute report, the stock market performance of companies with at least some female board members outdid those that only had male board members. And this was from about 17 to 26%, and this study was done over a 6-year period. According to another report, another report, a PwC report, there is a striking correlation between return on assets and the number of women on boards. And this was also done over 6 years. And it points out that companies with all male boards averaged a loss of 2.86%, while boards with 2 or more women were able to get a gain of at least 6.40%. So you see, having more women on your boards actually returns in more profits. Using the current GDP growth rate as a baseline, the Nigerian mining sector will need to grow at a compound annual rate of 63%. And this is to meet the Honorable Minister's goal of 3 to 5% contribution to the GDP over the next 5 years. This goal is very achievable. especially once we include women in the sector. And it will definitely provide a solid basis for Nigeria's economic recovery. Going forward, we believe that the key to boosting gender diversity in our mining sector absolutely rests in letting women of all ages know what the mining sector has to offer, help them achieve these rewards. It's time for all of us to join hands together, support gender inclusion in the mining sector, and this will be for the purpose of sustainable development and improving the overall productivity of the entire mining sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Caxton. You've rolled out numbers that I could not capture all of them, but they're very interesting to note that women on boards or women on in management teams, having more women impacted more on communities and sustainable development. We'll be glad to have your presentation so that we can share it and we can also digest it, because it is very interesting. These are studies that have gone on, and they've proven that women are indeed very important in the whole scheme, this whole mining sphere. Thank you, ma'am. So I'll just attempt to go back to Ms. Barua and hope that we can speak to her for some minutes. We are almost done. It's almost 1 o'clock, and I'd like to crave your indulgence to maybe just stretch for maybe 5-10 minutes so that we end 10 minutes past 12 in case we have some questions. Ms. Barua.
So good afternoon and thank you. I'm hoping that you can get to hear me now.
Yes,
so I won't take much time, but just want to say first that it is about gender. That women not in mining is definitely about gender. And with all due respect to the speakers, I kept noting how many times the men in their speeches use the word allow. So as a feminist and a gender practitioner, I'm going to talk about this and how some of these social norms and culture actually deter women from certain roles, certain skills. When we use the word allow, we give the impression that women need permission to be miners and that women need permission to take decisions in their lives. So I would want to crave the indulgence, especially of the men around here and the women who don't understand how social norms, how culture, how religion marginalize women and keep women from productive lives. The role and mandate of Ford is to build a world where everyone has the power to shape their lives. And inequality is at the root of most of the problems we have in this world. When a certain gender needs permission, needs special attention, needs special entry points before they get into things, then we see why they're not there. I'll give an example of a person with a disability, specifically a person on a wheelchair. And that person on a wheelchair needs to access the Federal Secretariat in Abuja, which has stairs. The elevators don't work, and there are no ramps. The ramps will just get you to the lobby. And then you say it is because this person does not believe in themselves, let me say female. It's because this woman doesn't believe in herself. If she believes in herself, she should be able to take her wheelchair up the stairs of the Federal Secretariat, even though we know that is impossible. And I have seen many women on wheelchairs who have had to be carried like babies, and that is one of the most embarrassing things you can ever do to a person with disability. When you don't create an enabling space and access for people to get to the point to be themselves. So marginalization of women in the extractive is a lack of understanding and a typical power play where the majority of players who are men don't understand and they therefore criticize the fact that women are not there. Because generally people criticize what they don't understand, and I don't blame them. For some it might be intentional, for some it's just the process of our socialization, where we think that women should be relegated to certain aspects of work or to certain aspects of the society. And anytime that women don't fit into that box that we've created for them, we label them, we call them names. And no woman, Africa has, our culture, especially in Africa, has embedded and socialized women to think that their dignity and integrity resides in their body or in their reproductive organs. So whenever you question that social role, most women retreat. And also, because this is a typical power play, you know, we don't want to change. Even though our world is changing with technology and all, people are crisscrossing the continents in less than hours and minutes. But we don't want to change our culture of marginalization, you know, where women are relegated to traditional roles. So when we use these words aloud, like I mentioned before, it presupposes that women and girls need permission and validation to do anything. And I would call on you to walk a mile in my shoes. And I like to tell stories when I talk about this. So I'm not going to go into the issue of mining and what women do, because the experts here have done all that. But just to set the record straight in something, 20 years ago, I went to the National Assembly for the first time. And then I went with a boss. And as soon as I entered the National Assembly, and I was going to make a presentation on the budget for my office at that time, a section of that budget was under my portfolio. And as soon as I sat down, the first thing that I heard from this honorable House member was if I was here to serve tea. Now, imagine you are a man. It will not happen if you're a man, you know. So please just put yourself in the shoes of most women, and let's refrain from using words like they don't encourage themselves, they don't want to push themselves. That thing broke me. 5 years after, I was also working with Amina Mohammed in the office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on MDGs. And even after 5 years, I was still asked that question. I was actually asked this time to serve tea, you know, because that is the role that people expect you to play in that environment. Not many women will be like me or like you, Tosin, or the children of our honorable professors, ministers, and DGs here who have girls, female children who have a better entry point to life. The women in the rural areas don't have the voice, the agency, and the power that we all have. So we need to do more than just say that they are their own worst enemies or they don't encourage each other. Women are not their own worst enemies. Competition is a natural thing. When women compete, society says it is because they are their own worst enemies. When men compete, it is because they are trying to see who is the better part in this conversation. So you see the same thing. When a woman is ambitious, it is because she's arrogant. When a man is ambitious, he is ambitious. So those gender stereotypes and those norms, no woman wants to be called arrogant. No woman wants to be called rude. No woman wants to be looked at upon when she goes into the mine as going in there to sexually trade with other men there. So I also, 10 years after that, I'm giving you my life milestone so that you understand some of the things that even I, from a middle-class civil service family where my parents were civil servants, had to go through. We implemented the Girls and Women project, the GWIN project, 10 years ago, about 10 years ago now. And that project where we were able to get women to start working in construction, in road construction. And you could hear the catcalls on all these women. If it's disturbing when you have a culture that generally tells you where to be, what to be. Men don't have to go through that. So put yourself in our shoes for a while. And I completely understand. That does not discountenance the fact that we need to do more, that women need to put themselves out there, that women need to support each other. Every gender has that competition and lack of support. The good thing is at least we don't assassinate each other when we don't support each other. So if you call women competing against each other or talking about each other, that's all you have in the world, just wars of people gossiping, but at least not bombs or mother of all bombs or wars in Iraq and Iran. It would just be us talking about each other. So please, I love what Professor Kola mentioned about a roadmap for mining in Nigeria and also beyond artisanal mining, because most women are found in the labor aspect, the unskilled labor aspect of many careers and jobs that we tend to use the word, they are tough, you know, and it is just a political statement to marginalize women and to ensure that women don't participate. I've had the fortune of building 2 houses in my lifetime. And those 2 I have made sure to live by example, to be built by women, to be designed by women. If I'm taking a taxi, it has to be a female Uber driver. If I don't see a female, I cut the call. We need to make those conscious efforts to help women so that we then remove all these stereotypes that say women should be teachers, 70, nurses, selling on the streets as traders. We also need to, work on how, we then break down these social norms. Even in our planning, in our work, give certain percentages and say, we must have this number of women. And I'm so glad the Honorable Minister is back, and I hope he takes this, that we then ensure that in our policies, not a blanket policy, because you see, we're all not round pegs and we're all not square pegs. We're all different in every way. You must provide those entry points that allow women to participate. And don't make the face of artisanal mining when we're doing our promos and all, like when you say detergent and Maggie Cube adverts, automatically you would find women and girls in the kitchen using them. What are you saying? You're telling the men not to get in the kitchen, not to wash clothes. And then we turn around and accuse men of not helping with chores. The same thing when we're looking at men in the extractive industry. When we're looking at careers and roles in the extractive industry, we put the face of men there. We have technically told women, this is not your forte. You shouldn't be here. So our work is to look at how we can, remove those drivers of inequality. What are the things, these subtle themes that we don't even know ourselves? And it took me 2 decades to get here. We don't even know ourselves that these things are systematically marginalizing women. And that's why Africa is underdeveloped. You cannot have half of your population limited to being nurses, and nurses are fantastic, teachers are fantastic, please don't get me wrong. But if you have half of your population who are told what to do, who society says this is where you must fit in, and I'm not talking about you and I, Tosin. I'm not talking about you and I, Madam Janet. If you follow SBM Intelligence Online, they did a breakdown, and I think this lady who has flying doctors did a breakdown of where we all belong. Tosin, you and I are just about 2 million of the population in Nigeria. I'm talking about the 112 million girls and Nigerians who don't have the kind of opportunities that you and I have to take a decision on what we want to do. I had to make a choice to go on this call. Many women need permission to be on this call. They don't even have this laptop. So please, my final statement will be, we need to look at the drivers of inequality in our country, and it's serious. And if we don't do that, we will never get our GDP to the level where developed countries have. If we keep making industrialization, GDP growth all about men, the men will continue to wear out and have high blood pressures, and we will continue to slay, and we will continue to be here. But we'll all suffer it together because our country will not develop, because you can't clap with one hand. You need both hands to clap. Thank you very much and good morning.
Fantastic, Ms. Barua.
We can just make a statement, because while I was talking earlier, sorry, I missed out Claire, and sorry about that. It was not intentional. Claire is there. I'm not sure that she's still on.
I am.
I'd like to acknowledge Claire. Thank you so much. She's been very helpful. One of the early callers in my office when I came in. And Claire, acknowledge your efforts in promoting mining in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
No, please don't apologize. It's absolutely fine. It's been very good and interesting. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, so thank you very much, Ms. Barua. Okay, I think because we're short for time, left to me, we'll keep going on and on. But I think I think your presentation was fantastic, and you ended with, we need to look at the drivers of inequality in Nigeria. If we don't, nothing is going to happen. We can't move forward. We can't clap with one hand. We need two hands to clap. So inequality in whatever form must be fixed, no matter how minute, if that's the right term, needs to be addressed. Gentlemen, we're not allowing women. Maybe we should remove that word from our vocabulary now. Let's not allow. We're allowing you. I'm allowing you. I think, Mrs. Barua, your presentation was fantastic. And because we don't have a lot of time, we have taken much more than we wanted to do, 2 hours. We cannot take questions, but I want to assure you that this is not the end. We keep having these conversations over and over. And when we have our next webinar, we'll be sure to invite everyone so that we can have a more expanded conversation. On this note, I'd like to just hand over to the program manager of our Natural Resource and Extractives program, that's Akintunde Babatunde, to just give his closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's been an interesting session, listening to everyone with their interesting perspective. And I'm also happy because the closing remark is coming at a time when Funke Barua made this profound contribution about the fact that women are not supposed to be allowed. I mean, the word "allow" should not be used in ensuring that women take their place. A sincere appreciation to the Honorable Minister. It's always interesting to hear you speak so passionately about women. And then we are also happy that you have frameworks at the ministry to help advance the cause of women. Don't stop there, sir. We would be happy to see, workable policies that would make women have entry points that will make them develop into a more, impactful position in the future. Honorable Janet, thank you so much. It's always interesting to listen to you because you are so passionate about all these. To the Australian Embassy, Claire, thank you so much for supporting this work. I mean, we are so, from the PTCIJ, we are happy that you support our work and we are happy that you are able to make this work. Thank you so much. Prof. Okunlola, thank you so much, sir. I mean, the fact that we've been having this back and forth organizing events, we've been having challenges with timing, with events, but then we are here today. Thank you so much. Engineer Simon Iko, thank you so much, sir. That was profound. Aja Shinkavi, thank you for being supportive of our work. Fatima, I mean, this journey has been insightful with you. Thank you so much. The PTCIJ, the Natural Resource and Extractive Sector program, we are happy to support women. We believe that at the end of the day, what matters is that even if women are doing much, it's important for us for the safe, awesome media representation, and that is what we are committed to at the PTCIJ. Thank you so much, our audience, for coming around. The conversation has been insightful, and we are happy to continue as a center to advance the cause of women, to bring the voice of our unsung heroes to the public space so that people know the fantastic things they are doing. And then we hold government to account to ensure that there is a clear framework to support women in mining. Thank you so much for joining us.
So before I go, I'll kindly like to ask my panelists to please turn on their video so that I have a picture for my records. This is something I want to have for a very long time. So kindly turn on your videos so that I have my picture. I would let you know, I'm waiting on Dapo, and so yes, hair, groomed, smiles, everything. Thank you. So I'm taking the picture in 1, 2, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's have a fantastic, fantastic day.
Awesome work.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Tosin.
Thank you,
Thank
Honorable
you,
Janet.
everyone.
Thank you, Ma. Please share your
Thank you,
speech so that I can share with everyone.
I will share it with you.
Professor Okunola, if you had a speech too, can you please share with me too so I can share with everyone too, if you had it written down?
Well, I'll try. I spoke extempore, but I will.
It's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. And Ms. Caxton,
He's a professor. He's a professor. He's a professor. You can speak from morning to night.
Ms. Barua, please. I want to have your speech. I want to frame it. I want to share it to the whole world.
Standing up, dancing, clapping, doing everything.
Thank you, Ma.
What drives my passion?
Thank you.
The story. Whoever understands gender, we know you know what you are saying. It's not about performance. It's about providing the enabling environment. We here have crossed the Rubicon, but think of that girl in a remote village with uneducated parents. Thank you. It's exciting. So bless you all. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you, Ma.
Tosi, I also spoke X, therefore I didn't have a speech, but I can use the recording. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dapo, as he left, thank you.
No, Mr. Dapo is still here.
Let me say hello to him.
Mr. Dapo.
Yomi, bless you. You should have extended this thing because I will have Lord Funke to speak for a while, then for questions to come in.
We will do this again. We'll do this again and invite Ms. Barua. We'll do this again.
To keep on telling, the audience, this is very critical, and I must tell you that I hate the collaboration because you know why? There's nothing that can come out. I said we have a chat. Nothing we can do. We've been going around in circles. You try to come up with something in parliament, it was shut down. You know why? Because the men are still the majority. And the women are so scared, if I don't support this bill, the same thing we go through because you have to understand this thing. The same thing we go through out here is what happens in parliament. If I stand my position here, they will remove me from my committee. I will fall out from the speaker. I will fall out from leadership caucus. So journalists, you have a lot to do. Premium Times is doing excellently well. So we look forward to you.